There are many families where everything looks fine from the outside. In reality, however, things are not always as they seem. Some of us become aware of this fact, while others normalize it without realizing it and move on. When we reach adulthood, we often don't realize that our difficult times are rooted in our childhood and family. All parents fall short from time to time. No parent can completely help their child emotionally. Yelling, being overly controlling, or, in rare cases, using physical punishment are mistakes that every parent sometimes makes. Does this make them cruel parents? Of course not. Parents are human and have their own problems. Children know how to cope with parents who show love and understanding. However, some parents cause permanent damage to their children's lives with their negative and oppressive behavior. We can use the word toxic to describe such parents. Like a chemical toxin, the emotional damage they inflict spreads throughout the child's self, and the wound grows as the child grows. Many parents practice the methods they learned from their own parents, and old, damaging habits are passed down from generation to generation. It is not easy to analyze whether one's own parents are toxic or not. Many people have difficult relationships with their parents, but this does not mean that your parents are toxic. Many people find themselves in the middle of a fine line when making this analysis, not knowing whether they were mistreated or whether they were too sensitive about it. There are some questions you can ask yourself in a moment. Some of the questions may make you anxious or uncomfortable. Do not worry. It is always difficult to accept how much harm our parents may have done to us. No matter how painful it is, your emotional reactions are completely natural and healthy. Did your parents treat you badly, unworthily, or in a critical way? Did you use physical violence for punishment? Did your parents use alcohol or drugs, and did this bother you? Have you ever had to take care of a parent who couldn't cope with their problems? Have you experienced hidden behaviors or sexual harassment? Have you experienced fear of your parents or difficulty expressing your anger? Do you see yourself as a destructive or abusive person? In relationships, do you think that the person you are close to will leave you or hurt you? Do you feel anger or sadness for no apparent reason? Do you feel that you are behaving like your parents? Do your parents still treat you like a child? Does time spent with your family cause you emotional or physical distress? Are you worried about disagreements? Do your parents try to control you through guilt? Do they try to manipulate your life using their financial means? Do you feel responsible for the mood of your family? How many of these questions did you answer? Yes. Waiting for our family to change is not the solution to these problems. Nor can we change what happened in the past. Let's start by changing ourselves and the effect it has on us. We can look at our future in a better way. Maybe you are filled with incredible anger of not having that childhood. There are things we need to take from our past. Not having our childhood is one of them. As long as this anger is with us, we cannot live our life the way we want to live it. Let's take a look at godly parents. What we call the myth of perfection is actually an illusion created by parents who think they are untouchable. Like the gods of Olympus in Greek mythology, they watch, judge, and punish everything from above. They pretend that they don't make mistakes, when in fact, they do as they please. They see their authority as unquestionable but they never admit their own shortcomings. The traumas a child experiences manifest themselves in different ways in adulthood. A child whose self-esteem is damaged begins to see the mistakes of his parents as his own fault. For example, a man who was constantly beaten as a child may try to justify the violence by saying, "My father beat me so that I would have a good career." A child who was abandoned may ignore the irresponsibility of his or her parents by saying, "My mother was a very difficult person, and my father was right." Denying the truth may bring relief in the short term, but in the long term, it causes much greater harm. When anger is repressed, it erupts in other areas of our lives. For example, for someone who experienced the trauma of abandonment as a child, relationships can follow the same cycle. Getting scared at the slightest similar event in the relationship, developing a defense mechanism that turns into anger, and eventually ending the relationship in that anger. Traumas are passed down from generation to generation, like a chain. The boss yells at his employee at work. The employee goes home and expresses his anger by scolding his wife. The wife remains silent towards her husband and directs her anger towards her child. The child cannot be angry with his mother and goes and destroys the weakest, maybe an animal, maybe a toy. We see people who don't want to go through this, but are unwittingly trapped in this cycle. For example, why does a workaholic work so much? Is it because work gives him peace? Or is it because he still carries a burden from his past? A child who has to take on all the responsibility when he is young because of his parents' indifference does not know how to rest when he grows up. Because the only thing he learned as a child is that he has to constantly do something to survive. The perception of if I stop, I will fall is ingrained. What about controlling parents? These parents' desire to be needed is so intense that they constantly try to control their children. The same words always come out of their mouths. I did it for your own good. I did it because I love you so much. I did it to keep you. If you get married, you'll break up with me. Without me, you're nothing. But you know, in fact, it's all about control, manipulation. They make you feel guilty. They try to make you believe that you cannot do anything without them. Toxic parents do this too. They compare you with others. Your neighbor's child was like this, and you are like that. Your relative went to that school. Why can't you? This can even create enmity between siblings. Healthy parents support their children's independence. For them, the child's growth and individuality is not a threat. But controlling parents can only control their children if they can keep them as children. Growing up with alcoholic, drug, or alcohol-addicted parents is like living with a dinosaur in the middle of the house that no one talks about. Everything may look normal on the outside, but on the inside, everyone is trying to survive by ignoring this fact. Addicted parents often deny the problem. They make excuses, and the family puts on a theater to appear normal from the outside. Children learn to deny reality. They grow up suppressing their own feelings and are afraid to express their opinions, even years later. In these homes, children are invisible. They cannot invite their friends. They cannot predict what will happen at home. Some try to attract attention. Others withdraw completely. When there is violence, silence is the safest refuge. To escape this environment, some marry at an early age, get involved in the wrong relationships, or quickly move into the workforce. A person who grows up with a parent who is addicted to alcohol may unwittingly form a relationship with someone who is addicted like them. They prefer the familiar feeling to the unknown. They try to manage everything because as children, they cannot predict what will happen at home. Emotional abusers can tear you apart with their words. Sometimes they say things that hurt you for the rest of your life. Some parents not only hurt you with their negative criticism, they may even compete with you. Is a mother jealous of her daughter, or a father jealous of his son? You may ask. Yes, they are jealous. If you can do what they could not do in their time, they may treat you as a rival. Normal parents are proud of their children's achievements, but this group of parents can ruin your best moments with their jealousy. Such parents have often had a deprived childhood. They may have lacked food, clothing, or love. There's always a sense of competition. On the surface, they seem to have your best interests at heart, but in reality, their only goal is to prevent you from getting the better of them. Children who grow up with such parents may have a fear of success in the future. They may sabotage their own success without realizing it. Success equals restlessness. When they achieve something, they feel guilty and withdraw. They cannot celebrate their successes to the fullest and always feel as if something is missing. Then there are perfectionist parents. They expect their children to be perfect all the time. Such parents usually have a high status and project the stress of their career onto their family. They put their children down and magnify even the smallest mistakes. For example, even when their children do something good, they tell them that they need to do better. As a result, children growing up in these families may feel constantly inadequate later in life. They begin to procrastinate, thinking, it's either I do it perfectly or I don't do it at all. They become less tolerant of their own mistakes and may even become hypersensitive to criticism. Therefore, they may feel unsuccessful and inadequate in many areas. What if there is physical violence as well as emotional violence? Children who are exposed to physical violence internalize it later in life. They learn to suppress their anger because they think that if they express their anger, they will be deprived of love. As adults, these repressed emotions will at some point erupt. Many parents who are violent towards their children were themselves violent as children. They have grown up believing that violence is the only way to deal with anger. If we are treated as a burden in our family, we can become adults who cannot ask for anything from anyone and who say, I can take care of myself. If our family respects our feelings and thoughts, our chances of establishing healthy relationships increase. However, individuals who grow up with childhood traumas may look at life more pessimistically and develop distrust towards people. You may not have had a happy childhood. We cannot change the past. But you can still do something for your future by understanding the impact of your experiences on your life, changing your thinking, and questioning what you believe is very important. First of all, we should try to understand the source of our discomfort. Think about how you treat people. What bothers you? What is the emotion that affects you? Is this feeling of discomfort linked to a similar memory in the past? If you had such an experience, what was it like? What emotions did you feel? You can write down what you feel as if you were talking to yourself, like an inner monologue. Try to find the source by engaging your mind over time. Sometimes your subconscious mind may suddenly give you the answer to this question days later. It may even remind you of something in your dreams, because actually, when you focus on this question, your subconscious starts sending you signals. When you find the real source of the problem, this process can hurt, because sometimes there are emotional baggage that we don't want to bring into our consciousness. It can be painful to face, but this is completely normal. As you try to face this emotion, move towards understanding and acceptance. You can write a letter from your present self to your childhood, a letter written with compassion to your childhood. Tell her about the future, what difficulties you have overcome, what you have accomplished, and that you actually did it all together. This can be a very special experience when you realize how kind and compassionate you are to yourself, to that little version of yourself. You can feel a sense of relief. Starting our own inner healing process can help us deal with such past traumas. Whether it is seeing a therapist, joining support groups, or simply taking a step to begin our own emotional healing journey, this is important. It will not always be easy to forget past hurts, but making an effort to do so can help us build a healthier future. Remember, you are not responsible or guilty for what happened to you as a child.